Welcome to the Stick 49ers podcast. I'm Lucas McLaughlin here, as always, with Lucas Ortiz, and we're here to discuss the future of the 49ers mainly. We'll go over a little bit what happened in that game. I like the game plan. It was nice to see Brock have a good game, but there's definitely some issues with some turnovers in the fourth quarter this year. 7 interceptions in the fourth quarter of games this year, which is unacceptable. Lucas, how you doing, man?
Hey, doing well. I'm just glad that it wasn't the blowout that we thought it was going to be. A little closer game. I think it was only a 6-point win, but the Lions definitely could have easily have won by 2 or 3 touchdowns. So, made it interesting. We finally got a good Ricky Pearsall game, which was exciting. Seeing him get his first 100.
yards and a
Yeah,
touchdown.
yeah, breakout game. I want to see that again.
Yeah,
This week is obviously there's gonna be no Purdy, but we'll see if he can kind of continue that success that he just had against the Lions. And there were some fun things. George Kittle, a nice little milestone, another 1,000-yard receiving season.
hell yeah.
Kind of the only one of the few bright spots this season is seeing his resurgence and
All
kind of getting
season.
back to the receiver that he used to be.
So consistent, right? So awesome.
Yeah, and we didn't lose any draft status or draft. We improved our draft instead of decreasing it by getting a needless win. So
Yeah, I think it was really interesting
that was the
because
most important
we
thing.
thought we'd just get destroyed. Now we got some pride. The Niners showed up. Kittle showed up. For a while, Purdy showed up. I just don't like what he's doing in the fourth quarter of games this year. But there's a lot of injuries. There's a lot of reasons. There's a lot of stuff going on. But then we got to see Dobbs play, just like you had said a couple weeks ago. He looked good. I mean, for his first NFL game, what did you think
Yeah,
of Dobbs?
I mean, I don't want to go back to the game that Allen started when Brock was hurt
Oh God,
and say that Dobbs would have won us that game, but I just feel like he would have gave us a better opportunity to win.
yeah.
And I was really stunned when Allen was chosen by Kyle Shanahan to be the starting backup quarterback that game. Yeah, Dobbs looked good, and maybe he's a guy that the team wants to bring back next season as the backup. I still do want to draft a quarterback and maybe groom a better long term quarterback, um, back up to Brock for next season and the years to come. But Dobbs looked good. Um, got us in the end zone, made it a game. A little excitement at the end. If we would have got I think a onside kick, we could have had a chance to win that game. But
If we get a healthy McCaffrey back,
yeah,
let's talk about the offensive line because there's definitely some injuries and they didn't have the greatest game, but they actually did some good things in this game. Let's get down in the trenches early here with Lucas Ortiz.
Down in the trenches with Lucas Ortiz. Down in the trenches.
so coming in, no Trent. He's been shut down for the season, and his backup, I think Jalen Moore was also hurt. So no Jalen Moore. Aaron Banks was hurt. His backup, I think Feliciano hasn't seen the field this year and didn't get into this game. So we were searching for guys to be on the field and healthy bodies, and Kyle had to go and sign practice squad players from other teams who literally got their jersey and suited up and started. I can't remember the name of the left tackle or the left guard, but they actually did okay. I mean, Brock had a couple sacks, but I wouldn't say it was the fault of those two players. More of a coverage sack,
Yeah.
and
He also had a rushing touchdown, which is
yeah, I mean, there was really a running game. You can say, all right, well, if they were so good, why didn't we have more success on the ground? Why didn't Guerrero have a big game? Or Debo, who we were still giving the ball as a running back, he actually had a pretty decent game for the most part. I think Debo as a running back probably had his best game. It was knocking down like 10-yard runs here and there, and
yeah.
doing a little bit better on those jet sweeps and those called plays for him out of the backfield.
Yeah.
But the offensive line was solid. I wouldn't say that they necessarily were the reason that we lost the game. It was more of our special teams again, with Jake Moody missing those field goals and the defense just not being able to hold Detroit down for the second season. Yeah. So offensive line, I give them a B plus. I mean, they looked good. Pooney, another shining light on the offensive line or on the team on the offensive line. I think Purdy's kind of solidified himself as the guy is going to anchor down the right guard spot for years and years to come.
Yeah.
You know, he's a future Pro Bowler. Like he's allowed little to no sacks and is a really good, smart, young, athletic, and big offensive lineman. I think he's going to get stronger and he's going to get smarter next year. So look for him to make his first Pro Bowl next season. Unfortunately, he didn't make it this season, but you know he'll be on like all rookie teams and one of those guys that is going to get more consideration next year for the Pro Bowl and all pro teams. And then McKivitz, you know, quiet, solid year for McKivitz.
Yeah.
He's one of him and Purdy both started every single game this season, which
impressive.
is, yeah. And I think we did Brendel as well. I mean, I know we've had our disparaging remarks about Brendel, but I think he's actually started every game. We may not have wanted him to start every game, but I think he did, if I'm not mistaken. And you know, the center to right side of the offensive line has been, if anything, healthy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
maybe they didn't.
Your overall grade for the line against the Lions?
B plus game from the Lions. Yeah. Nice. We'll see how they finish up against the Cardinals, but you know, not the most formidable defense that we've faced this season, but we still got some good defensive players out there. You know, obviously the Lions are missing their best defensive lineman and Hutchinson, who got hurt earlier in the season, but they're pretty good. They let us score a lot of points, though. I mean, if anything, you got to be really happy with the offense looked up until the fourth quarter interceptions.
But that's a huge
up until
issue,
then we
right?
looked really solid.
You know, Purdy looked great at times. He was using his feet, 377 yards.
Lots of time to throw the ball.
Yeah, he did. But then there's
some deep passes.
Interceptions were really bad, and that's the one thing that I could say about that is, you know, hopefully that doesn't happen in a big game, but it has. So
yeah,
but
and it should have been 3.
Is that you just wonder him sitting on the sidelines at the end, the confidence just went down, and he was hurt, and you know, but he had put his effort into that game and had it. If it just had finished in the fourth quarter, and those 2 interceptions, one of them was really bad.
But, one of them was a bad throw that kind of sailed on him. The other one was a bad decision. It was a throw that was going to be on target, but I guess he just didn't think that the free safety was reading the play, and maybe thought he had an open guy when really he was just getting baited into a pick.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I think our record when Brock throws an interception of any type is we haven't won a game this year when he's thrown an interception.
7.
We can turn the ball over and still win, which we have, but when he specifically throws an interception, we've lost every time.
Yeah, and that's a big issue. I mean, we'll see how Shanahan. There's good quarterbacks available. We'll see how that gets handled, but I think that he'll be back. I think that he is our franchise guy, and he plays really well at times. He needs to sit down with Joe Montana and Steve Young and talk about finishing.
Yeah.
But
I mean, there's guys like look at Patrick Mahomes. He's thrown his fair share of interceptions this year. The Chiefs have only lost once, so his defense has been good enough to pick him up, whereas ours this year wasn't.
Yeah, that's
true. Know, when Mahomes threw his interceptions in games, the defense held the other team to 10 points, 15 points, and the Chiefs did just enough to keep winning. So we need to return to that where we're not relying on the quarterback to be perfect, because I do want our quarterback to take chances and not feel like he's walking on pins and needles, not throwing any interceptions and not taking chances down the field and hitting big plays. I do want him to take chances still. And right now, he just probably feels a little more pressure to be perfect because the defense is not going to be able to stop the other team.
You're listening and watching the Stick 49ers podcast. We thank you so much for subscribing, and we will continue to bring you exclusive 49er content. Now, we're basically evaluating players and coaches. I think Shanahan had some good points and some bad points. I really liked his game plan for this game against the Lions in a tough environment at home. But how do you evaluate the coaches? And do you think we need an offensive coordinator next year that's going to be calling plays other than Shanahan?
No, I don't think that's a real necessary change that we need to make. I think special teams is probably one of the things that we should look at upgrading. It's not that we have a bad special teams coach. He was successful with other teams. He's actually comes from a well revered coaching family, the Schottenheimers.
Yeah.
He's the son of Marty Schottenheimer, who used to coach the Chiefs and other teams. I don't think it's necessarily that he's a bad coach. It's just the team has performed poorly under his direction. So it's just more about maybe breathing new life into that position and bringing a different perspective, and maybe just somebody coming from the outside next season will kind of reinvigorate that side of the ball and bring some stability to that position, because that side of the ball, or I'm sorry, that team, whether it be kickoffs, kickoff returns, punts, punch returns, even field goals weren't gimmies. Yeah, we had some issues on field goals this year.
I'd like to see the Niners get younger and faster in the draft. I think
Yeah.
you got to look at some of these guys. They're getting the defense has a lot of holes in it right now, and obviously a lot of the guys weren't playing. But it's a concern that we are ending up not even in the playoffs this year. And I think we're going to have to get faster and younger.
Well, we have a lot of draft picks, and I think we're going to definitely get a lot of younger guys in training camp next season. Will they stick and will they make the team is another story. But
Yeah.
yeah, well, our lack of speed is definitely been something that we haven't had in all aspects. I think, maybe a couple guys on defense here and there, like, Nick Bosa is obviously a pretty fast rusher off the edge, and you have guys like Lenoir and Bernardo Green who've looked really, really good.
Yeah.
I mean, Lenoir, we haven't spoke about him, but him not making the Pro Bowl this season, I know we didn't have a good record, but we still had 4 Pro Bowl players. He had the best passer rating coverage of any cornerback in the NFC this year, and
That's really strange, actually. Yeah.
zero touchdowns allowed, and the best passer rating against when he's on the coverage. And yeah, he was looked over for some other guys with I guess bigger names, or were drafted in the first round.
Yeah, that's a definite lack of respect, and I think he commands it. So,
But he's got speed, and he's a guy that we're gonna have on our team for about the next 4 or 5 years. So
definitely.
we need more of that. We need more Fred Warners. We need the next outside linebacker with speed who can get from sideline to sideline.
Now,
If Greenlaw is not going to be back next season, we'll have to wait and
hopefully,
see
yeah.
if he not only if he returns, but does he come back full speed and better than ever.
Exactly. Now, it's always going to be tempting to draft a running back, but I don't think we need to in this draft. I mean, maybe late in the draft, but I don't. I think we have enough running backs if they can get healthy. Hopefully CMC, but you know, I think we have other concerns other than running backs. So I'm hoping they don't grab one early. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I really hope we don't spend any early draft capital on running backs. We've shown that we can find good running back talent in the late, maybe 6th or 7th round, or even as undrafted free agents. Maybe look at some free agents that might not cost you too much money. Maybe bring some veterans that still got some life on the shelf, like a Raheem Mostert, or like a can't think about the top of my head, but just good solid backup running backs from other teams that give you value, and you don't have to spend a second or third round pick on them. Spending third round picks on running backs hasn't really worked out so far for Cal. I mean, Garendo was a pretty high pick,
Yeah.
and he did show some flashes of some greatness, but I don't think we needed to draft him in the third round. I think we could have had Garendo in the fourth or fifth,
Possibly,
maybe even sixth.
it's a
Yeah,
tough one. I mean, I trust
yeah,
Shanahan knows what he's doing, but this year, it's just an off year. It was from the very beginning with the holdouts. It just ended up being kind of a weird. Nothing was happening. The ball was not bouncing our way. If you we did get a
yeah.
49er bounce this year.
I mean, there was some weird stuff that happened this season. Just the amount of penalties that were called
Yeah.
against us, and I think we were at there was a chart that showed the amount of penalties called against other teams.
Yeah.
Like if we're playing a team, like how many penalties were called on them. It happened to our opponents the least amount, meaning
Huh.
we were fighting an uphill battle like more almost every single game. Like, well, obviously we're making our own mistakes and we were being penalized, but for some reason, the other teams were getting, the brutal holding calls or the passing interferences or the, you know, illegal shift, illegal man downfield, just all these little things that it seemed to only happen to us. And come to find out at the end of the season, it actually did happen to us a lot more than our opponents.
Yeah. Well, let's hope that we can stop the run better than we did this year, next year.
That was a big
That's a
one.
huge concern.
Yeah. It just never felt like we had a consistent defensive line that you could just roll out there every single week and this guy was going to be the right edge and this guy was going to be the nose tackle. This guy's going to be defensive tackle. Just injuries here and there every week. Every week there was a new starter on the defensive line.
Yeah, they all shined at times, but never all together.
Yeah, like Bosa pretty much played the whole season and he was solid. He was really good. He made the Pro Bowl, but I wouldn't necessarily say he had a dominant season.
True.
And although it looked like who's our right edge guy, Leonard Floyd. Looks like he's a solid season, but I think we need a little bit more on that side. I think he's better as a guy that can come in and be a pass rusher on a third down.
Yeah. You know who I think we
third
miss
down rusher
more than we realize is.
Oh, are you talking about Eric Armstead?
Yeah, we miss him so much.
Yeah, Eric Armstead.
You thought you could get by without him, but he was stopping the run on so many downs that you just didn't even realize it,
Yeah. So, I mean, I really like Evan Neal. I felt Evan Neal has been a solid rookie who's been,
good.
A guy that's been pretty stout against the run. And, he's started to get a little more snaps towards the end of the season. But, yeah, we're gonna need more depth. I want to get back to the 2019 49ers where, we just had like first round picks all up and down the front. And, maybe we're going to have to spend a first round pick this season on a defensive end or a defensive tackle. There's some good edge rushers in that, 7 to 12 draft slot where it looks like we're going to be come the NFL draft. So let's see what we can do in the first round, like really help the defensive line and get back to that type of team that we used to be. The defensive backfield is really good. Yeah, you're gonna probably need to draft like some guys in the middle rounds, just to solidify and have some good backups, especially for special teams. Yeah. It's typically backup defensive backs play a lot of special teams, but I like our starters. I mean, I think Mustafa has got all pro written all over him. I mean, they were talking about him. Amon-Ra was on somebody's podcast, and he's like
aggressive.
9.
I like how he flies to the ball.
He was so impressed with Mustafa and how hard he hit. He said he hit Jamar Gibbs on a blitz. I think Gibbs picked him up, but he hit him so hard it like cut his face. And you see Gibbs on the sideline, and you see like this big gash coming down his cheek and blood running down. That's a bad man. That's a guy that you want on your team. I mean, he probably made
2 or 3 guys like that to swarm to the ball next year.
He's got some Ronnie Lott in him, man. Like he does not care if he gets lit up by anybody. He's gonna come in and stick his head in there and come in like a bullet. So we got some thumpers on the defensive backfield. Lenoir is really good. Renardo Green was amazing this season as a rookie.
True.
So we probably do need somebody to play the nickel back. If Lenoir is going to be the guy that comes from the outside cornerback position and goes to the nickel, then we might need another guy to play the outside when we go to the nickel position. But yeah, there's improvements to be made, I think, at all levels. I really think the defensive line is where it starts. So
definitely,
I think we need to put the highest and the most draft capital on the defensive line and the offensive line.
And honestly, Warner started out so good this year, but he was been hurt. He revealed, so hopefully next year that won't happen, and he'll be at 100%.
Yeah, as well, and still made the Pro Bowl, and probably will be first team All Pro. Even as a
candle at both ends, but he gets it done.
70%, 70%. Fred Warner is still the best linebacker in the game,
definitely,
which is pretty crazy. I mean, you think like what if he just has a season where he doesn't get hurt?
I think if you look at
nothing major, nothing like where it kept him out of the game, but I think it's like this season where he played every game, but it just has like something lingering. It could be an ankle, it could be a back, it could be a hip, it could be a shoulder. I mean, it's football. Every guy is playing with an injury that maybe they're not like complaining about or telling anybody about because they don't want to be taken off the field.
Now we have Sunday Night Football against the Arizona Cardinals to finish this thing off, and finally, hopefully, we don't get anyone hurt, and we can finish that game. I'm sure they feel the same way. They've kind of had a similar year.
Who wants to lose the most? I think that's what this game comes down to.
I
Because
would like to see Dobbs play in this game.
Arizona doesn't want to win either. They don't have anything to play for other than pride and draft
picks.
capital. Yeah, so
We're gonna lay down.
yeah, it's going to be backup quarterback. I think Pearsall is going to get a lot of love in that game from Dobbs.
I hope so. They played together, right?
Yeah,
That's
and
awesome.
Kittle will be out there probably just because he loves football so damn much that
at halftime, take his helmet away. Where's my helmet?
Yeah, just don't. Our cornerstone players, I don't want to see get hurt. So maybe don't play them too much.
Not worth it. Yeah. All right. So in this last preseason game, give us your score and what do you think is going to happen? I'm not going to say.
All right. So this one's going to be a low scoring game. I think with the backups playing, it's going to be a little herky jerky and not a lot of execution. I think it's going to be like about an 18-15 game. Cardinals win it right at the end on a game-winning field goal. 18-15 Cardinals.
Nice.
Niners pick number 9 or 10.
I'm going to say that
the draft
that we get 28 points in this game. And
okay.
Pearsall has 2 touchdowns. Dobbs runs for another touchdown. I'm going to say we actually win this game, even though we probably would rather have the draft pick.
Yeah.
I'm going to say 28-14.
All right.
Niners.
Well, I hope you're wrong.
Me too. Right on, Lucas. As always, thanks for being here. And like and subscribe. And we got one more left after this next game. Just kind of
the wrap up show.
If we have any other key information or news, we'll always come back and give that to you. But yeah, man, let's just get to that finish line and not let anyone else get hurt.
Sounds good, brother. Right. And see you after the game.
Cool. Thanks for tuning in to the Stick 49ers podcast. I'm Lucas McLaughlin here with Lucas Ortiz saying take care and go Niners.
Go Niners.